So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. This is the Leadership Northern Colorado Leadership Moment. Today we've got a great interview planned for you and we're excited to see you all here today. I want to just introduce myself quickly. I'm Amanda Miller and our team at the Place Setting Company supports the Leadership Northern Colorado program and all of our committee members. So big thank you to those who support the committee and provide that service to not only build this program, but also the program for the current 2022 class. We so appreciate you. I do also want to recognize and thank our sponsors. We do want to thank Elevations Credit Union for supporting Leadership Northern Colorado. And without their support, this program would be impossible. So we are so thankful. We also want to recognize our community partners at our regional chambers and community foundations for helping with Leadership Northern Colorado. So a few reminders for today, please stay on mute. And if you have questions for Casey during the interview today, please drop those into the chat. We'll be monitoring the chat so we can consolidate those and ask questions of Casey at the end of the conversation today. So again, please stay muted and drop any questions you have into the chat. We also invite you to mark your calendar for the next Leadership Northern Colorado Leadership Moment interview. That will be on Tuesday, April 12th, and we'll be announcing our guest speaker very soon. So save the date and watch for an announcement. We look forward to hosting these interviews, the Leadership Moments, once a month. They always fall on the second Tuesday. I am now going to turn it over to Cece. Cece from our steering committee will be conducting our interview. So I'm going to turn it over to Cece. Cece, you can introduce us to Casey and run with it. So thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. So thank you so much for joining us today, everyone. We're super excited to have Casey Katofsky with us. Casey, in 3 minutes, can you share with us who you are and what you do?
Yeah, thank you, Cece, and thank you, Amanda, for setting this up. Very honored to be here. Thank you guys again. I apologize for you having to listen to me for the next half an hour. So my name is Casey Katofsky for the people that I have not met. I do see some familiar faces. I am the executive director here at Future Legends Complex. If you're not familiar with the project, it is a 118-acre complex in Windsor that is bringing professional sports to Northern Colorado outside of the Eagles that already exist with professional baseball and professional soccer. 2 hotels, about 12 to 14 restaurants, 30 outdoor fields, one of the biggest bubble dome stadiums in the history of this planet, a dormitory that seats 64 different rooms, and a partridge in a pear tree. And so I originally am from the California area. I'm from Los Angeles, but I've lived all around the country. I've lived here now in Fort Collins for about 2 years, 2.5 years. My partner is actually one of you guys. She's hiding herself, so if I embarrass myself, that's why. I live here in Fort Collins, as I mentioned. I've worked here the same time, but I'm very excited to be a part of this community and to bring all these different elements to an area that is so fast growing, but so much precedent in the history and the tradition and the family orientation that this has.
Awesome, Casey. So after the last few years that we've had, a little busy and crazy, what are the future priorities here in 2022?
Yeah, absolutely. So both of our professional teams actually start this summer, which is very exciting and very scary at the same time. So one of our professional teams is a professional baseball team called the Owls. It has previously been an affiliate of the Los Angeles Angels, now is an affiliate of Major League Baseball. We're moving them from Orem, Utah to Northern Colorado. So this will be the first inaugural season. And we also purchased a expansion soccer team, as some of you guys know, known as the Hailstorm, for if you guys are from this area for obvious reasons. Both of them will start this summer in about the June timeframe, and they will play in our secondary stadium that sits about 2,000 people, and to our main stadium, which will be ready in the fall timeframe, that seats about 7,000 people for a professional game and about 15,000 people for an event. And so with that capacity, we become one of the biggest outdoor venues in Northern Colorado, which is very exciting to us. Honestly, what our goals are, CC and Amanda and the rest of the squad here, for this year is to really establish ourselves as being a major part of the community, obviously get construction done on a lot of our facilities, but really start implementing different events, different activities, different local academies, tournaments, whatever you can think of, to really establish ourselves in 22, especially with potentially, knock on wood, the end of COVID, and with the end of construction timelines as well.
So everything that you're talking about is going to, give Windsor, Northern Colorado a huge economic impact. So just to have you maybe expand on that a little bit more, what is your true vision for Northern Colorado for any other impact and as a resident?
Absolutely. I would say that we picked this area for a reason. We looked at the growth pattern that this area has and has been showing the last couple of years. Stacy Miller, who's actually on this, is a big proponent of that, showing us the economic development and the growth that not only has already existed here, but will exist, especially with our attendance here. And so the thousands of jobs that we'll be able to bring, as I mentioned a little bit before, the restaurants are able to bring to this area that has so few so far, and obviously is about to grow, bringing hotels as well. Our goal is to really open up as many things as we can to continue to build the growth of Windsor, and not in an intrusive way. We understand that a group like us coming in from California, we're not from this area. We want to be able to look at this as outsiders coming in to contribute instead of outsiders coming in to take over. That's how I think that we would authentically look at this situation. And with Northern Colorado being such an incredible place, being a place that people want to visit already, that people are already moving to, the weather is beautiful, the people are very nice. We want to contribute to that the best way that we can, while also contributing to the economic development, the jobs, the food, the entertainment, the family gatherings, etc. That's very important to us as well.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for that. Casey, I would be remiss if I did not bring up that the ballpark has faced a lot of adversity since its inception, when we were discussing this even just 3 years ago. So how did you get through that, or how did Future Legends as a whole get through that? And what advice might you have for other leaders who are facing similar challenges?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a fair question too. I would say that I always joke about the fact that I still have hair is a miracle. We have definitely felt adversity and faced a lot of different things that you wouldn't want to face, but that's also what you have to understand when you build something this big, is that not everything's going to be as pretty as you'd like to. But I think from that, you're able to potentially grow from the ashes and be stronger. And so obviously there was a global pandemic. We're very fortunate that we did not open up the complex 3 years before, because obviously we would have been open and then we would have had to deal with restrictions based on COVID. If we opened up in 3 years later, we would be too late, in my opinion. So timing wise, we're actually looking at a pretty solid time frame. You're at the end of potentially the end of COVID, and the beginning of kind of the big boom of this area. And so that we look at that as a glass half full. And so honestly, and this may or may not answer your question, CC, but as a leader, you want to look at the things that you've learned from either mistakes that you've made or things that you can or can't control, and how you fix it for the future. I can't control a global pandemic, right? No matter how many times I'd love to fix it, I can't fix it myself. And so I can't stay up at night focused on things that I can't control. If there's a delay in construction, I'm not building it myself physically. I would love to. It would be a terrible complex, but I'm not building it myself physically. And so those are the type of things that the general public doesn't really care. If there's a delay in something and you have a good excuse for it, they just want to see things built, right? And so we want to make sure that we deliver on that. If a truck driver gets COVID and then your steel is a week and a half delayed, all the public sees is that your construction is a week and a half delayed, right? And so when we've dealt with those type of things, we have to make sure that we take ownership. We don't make any excuses. We say, look, here's the situation. We have to take responsibility for it. And we hope that we can build from it. And the operations side, you have to plan for events years and years in advance. You're working on 2026, 2027 events as we speak that are national or international events. And so those are the type of things that even though we haven't opened yet, we've done 3 years of due diligence to try and plan these things for the foreseeable future. That we've also learned things that have gone well and things that haven't, just in the contract process or just in the phase of getting things done ahead of time, building our staff, what processes we need to get ahead of time, the equipment, the setup for the fields, the architecture, all that stuff. I think you grow from. But I'm not going to lie, it hasn't always been easy. But at the end of the day, you're here because this is what you're passionate about. This is what myself and my family is passionate about. We wouldn't be here if we weren't. The other joke that I always say is that if we were here to make money, we'd be building a parking garage, right? And so that's not why we're here. We're here because we're passionate about sports and entertainment. We've been around it for our entire lives, and this is something that we wanted to bring to this area that really deserves it.
So when do you sleep? Because it sounds like you're pretty busy.
I do not sleep. And again, I know Cassie is on this call. She can vouch for that. I don't sleep very much. I don't know how that's possible, and I don't eat very healthy.
Oh no.
But I am working on it because I'd love to be able to live a long time, or at least as long as I can.
Yeah. All right. Well, you talk about your background in California, and then, here you are here in Colorado. Can you share your biggest success or possibly like a point of pride for you as a leader?
Wow, it's a good question. So I'll start with the first one, the biggest part of success. And the cliche that you're supposed to say as a leader is always going to be, the success of the team, which is what I will say, which is anytime that you see someone on your staff, doing something that really shows that they're top talent or achieve something that they want to, is always your top priority as a leader. Is not necessarily yourself, but the growth of your team and your staff. And so that's what I would say normally, and that's what I will say. But to give it specific, we obviously, looking at our professional soccer side, this area has never seen professional soccer before. To bring an expansion, USL League One, which is the third highest level of soccer in North America, to this area that has looked for soccer for so long, and to bring something that the town can resonate with, again, with a team name called the Hailstorm. It's very specific to this area. If you guys are from here, you know exactly why. Same thing with the Earthquakes in San Jose, or the Yankees in New York. Team names that are very specific to that area. And having our first game 2 weeks ago, our first preseason match down in Colorado Springs against the Switchbacks, we actually performed pretty well in the first half. The second half was a different story. But to actually see the fact that we created a team, we got the players, we got the coaching staff, we've done the branding, we created a logo, the team name, all of that work just to put it into one preseason game that nobody attended because it wasn't open to the general public. Sometimes you have to stand there and say, wow, all these years of work, all the staff that we've brought in to take care of these things, that's come into some sort of fruition. Seeing somebody walk around with a Hailstorm hat, that's crazy. Just to think about all the things you had to get to even make that hat. And so that's the kind of stuff that we look at. And obviously, it's only going to go up from here. Building a fan base, having people come out to a game on site is going to be unbelievable. And we actually, last week, we were able to go on the concourse of our main stadium for the first time and kind of look at the whole complex from a bird's eye view. And that was pretty rewarding just to see something built. For so long, this has been an idea for 10 or 15 years. I've lived here for 2.5 years. I've been a part of this company for 3.5. Just to stand on something and to look out and kind of see what you're creating and who you're creating it for is without question the most pride that I've felt, and I haven't even really done anything yet. That makes sense.
Absolutely. That's awesome. And I see that Amanda did drop in your website. So for hailstormfc.com. And we do have one question that I'll address right now since we were talking about it. Are the Hailstorm in the same league as the Switchbacks?
Great question. So we are not, but it gets confusing because we can play them sometimes. So how it works in soccer, it's a little bit different than it is in baseball or basketball or football. We are in USL League One. They are in USL Championship League. So they are technically the top league of USL. We are the second league of USL. And then there's MLS. It's extremely confusing. We are called League One, but we are the third highest level. That makes no sense. Don't ask me why. So we play the Switchbacks in a couple of friendly games or cups as a part of different entities that we're a part of, but they're not in our division. They're not in our league. But we can still play them. We have a good relationship with them as well, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Thank you for clarifying that, Casey. I do have one final question for you here before we move on to additional questions and answers. Can you share with us your favorite leadership book?
Yes. So I've been thinking about this one. Thank you guys for warning me about this one ahead of time. I am someone that gets very inspired from personal stories. And so this is an unorthodox answer to this question. I don't necessarily have a book that I would recommend that's for leadership. But since this is a sports complex and I'm a sports guy, I will give you kind of a story that there have been multiple books written on this story that could potentially give you kind of what inspires me. So it is no secret, I'm not the oldest person in the world. I have been very fortunate to be able to be in this position at a young age. And so I look at other people that have been able to inspire others in a same type of situation that I have been. You don't have to show me hands, but if anybody has seen the movie Moneyball, I'll get to the reason why this is inspiring. Thank you, Cece. So the end of that movie, the movie is about a guy named Billy Bean who kind of created this new style of looking at analytics. And ironically, the end of that movie, the person that they hire, Billy Bean was trying to get hired by the Boston Red Sox for all these things that he was doing. He stayed with the Oakland Athletics. The guy that the Red Sox hired was a guy named Theo Epstein. Theo Epstein is my biggest role model. He was the youngest general manager in Major League Baseball history and was hired by top three most well-known sports franchises, in my opinion, in the country. And in 2 years, they won the World Series for the first time in 80 plus years. They then won again. They then won again. And he utilized this style of leadership that he was a little bit more lackadaisical, a little bit more laid back, but still very passionate in what he did. And people took him very seriously in a sport that is very precedented on its old age and its male stature. Then he moved to the Chicago Cubs. And if anybody knows the end of that story, Chicago Cubs won their first World Series in 100 plus years. And so he was able to do that. They're going to build a statue of him the size of the moon. And so what he was able to do, not because he had the biggest resume and not because he had kind of the loudest voice, but because he was bringing in a new style that people took a chance on. It created a success that has never been seen before. And so I'm nowhere close to that, but I look at that as somebody that I would look up to, as there have been people that have taken a lot of chances on me, being of similar age to him when he first started, of how do I create kind of a newer style, a new precedent that people can follow me one day in the same type of fashion. If that can answer your question, CC and Amanda, a little bit.
I love it. That is a fantastic movie. If you guys have not watched it, definitely check it out. Moneyball, Brad Pitt, and Jonah Hill, I think is his last name. So yeah, that's going to be your Friday night, everyone. So while we're wrapping this up here, I saw that Amanda did also drop in a few links of Theo Epstein, your schedule for the Hailstorm. So are there any other questions? If you'd like to drop it in the chat or perhaps come off mute at this time, I'm sure Casey would love to answer your questions.
Casey, I'll ask you one that we often ask our guests of this leadership moment experience, is to share with us your first job. Tell us about that first opportunity you had as a young person and what that first job looked like.
That's a good question. So there's two answers. I mean, outside of lemonade stands, outside of our front yard, when I was 6, my first job. So I was very fortunate to be raised in a family that was a part of sports entertainment. So I wasn't one of those kids that went to summer camp or that kind of went to stay away camp. I worked every summer. When I turned 8, my parents were like, all right, you're good to go. You can start working now. So we were a part of a minor league baseball team, the Owls, actually. In 2004 was when we bought. And I would spend each summer selling tickets and kind of passing around the tickets, passing around promo guides, and working, 12-hour days. But when you're 9 years old, it's, that's the life. That's the best thing that you could possibly think of. And so I would do that. And then we also had a family friend that owned a baseball card store that would work after school and sell cards and sell memorabilia and stuff like that. And so if you can't tell, I'm a big sports fan and it kind of runs my life. But it's, even things like that, you learn things when you're young of what you like and what you don't like that can kind of transform you into what you want to do when you're an adult, which I'm not yet at all. I'm not an adult yet. I'm still waiting for that. But that's at least it's taught me a little bit.
Well, Casey, I know there's a lot of us here, so I have 2 questions for you. 1, are you giving all of us tickets? And then 2, do you have any secret that you can share with this group? What's said here stays here.
I can do both those things. So yes, make sure that if you are interested in getting tickets or would like one, either give me a ring or find me somewhere and I'll make sure that I can take you guys, take your inquiries seriously for sure. So yes. And any secrets, you know what, I can give you guys some secrets. You guys are very fortunate to be a part of this, and thank you guys again for taking the time. So I can tell you a little bit of secrets. So part of what we are doing now is we're looking at expansion of our site and what we're going to bring on top of it. So I mentioned a lot of different things that we are doing at Future Legends and the different amenities that we'll have, but not necessarily some of the details. And so Stacy Miller, who's on this call as well, has helped me a lot of these different things. So we actually will have a retail center that is across from our stadium that's a part of our site that will have anywhere from really 10 to 14 restaurants that will be open to the general public. And so our goal is to bring some national name brand and some local mom and pop as well that will represent each category: pizza, ice cream, burgers, some QSRs, some sit down. And that's going to be very exciting for us with the millions of people that we'll bring in per year. And along with the growth of Windsor, having more restaurants, as you guys know, is a top priority. And so being able to finalize those, you should be hearing some more information from us very soon. And the one other thing that I will say, which is very top secret, is let's just say that we have some sponsorship and naming rights partners that you guys will see from us very soon. And so people don't even know that part. Some of our major assets, such as our stadium, actually both of our stadiums, will be announced to the public very, very soon. You guys hopefully will be the first to know.
I'm looking forward to reading all about it. That's going to be great. So looking over at the chat, it looks like we have one question. How do you balance the day-to-day needs as a leader with your desire to continue to develop as a leader?
It's a good question. I mean, you talked about how I don't sleep, so clearly I don't balance it very well. I would say that my own priority is to make sure that the complex and the staff are put top priority at all times. And part of what I mean by that is certain places that I've been or certain places that I've seen, and this is not a knock on anybody, but they don't necessarily prioritize either mental health or family. And so part of what I was raised to do is to understand the value of family, of work-life balance, and to be a leader through that. And so when we hire somebody, the first thing that we tell them is, what are some things that we can do to better your work-life balance, to make sure that you're home with your family, that you can grow the same way that I would want to grow. And I think that allows me to grow more as a leader, is to understand more of how do I help individual people that are on the staff. Our staff is 20 to 30 people. It's not that big yet. But when it gets up to 400 people, I can't, as much as I'd like to, I'm not able to spend as much time with everybody as I'd like to. So I would say that I try and spend day to day getting to know my staff as much as I can, or our staff, understanding how they operate, what makes them motivated to do what they want to do. Why are they a part of this company? What interests them about that? Are they just as passionate as I am about sports, or do they want to be part of something bigger? What are their work hours that they like to work? Do they have a daughter that has a softball game at 3:30 p.m. that they have to be at? And so understanding those things and understanding what makes them better makes me better, I think, as a leader, is understanding what I can do to make them pursue more of what they want to do. And that also helps me. I'm not good at everything at all. There's a lot of things that I'm not good at all. And being able to find members of your team or find things that you want to do that you're not as good at or that aren't your strengths. I don't need 35 Caseys on my team, nor do I want that, nor does the world want that, to be honest. And so I don't want a staff of people that are going to copy exactly what I do. I want to learn from them. And if you're not able to learn from other experiences or other people that are around you, it's tough for you to grow personally. And so that I try and take hone of what my mistakes are, what my weaknesses are, and shortcomings, to be able to find people that can help me grow, as well as me doing the same for them. So we can create kind of a full team and kind of lead through that.
Casey, you are so full of wisdom. This is great. I know work-life balance is very important to a lot of us here in Leadership Northern Colorado as well.
I appreciate that, Cece. I'm glad that this is being recorded. So if you want to show my mother and my grandmother after this, I appreciate that.
We'll send it. So we have about 4 minutes left, and the next question is a little bit loaded for you. So pandemic aside, the Future Legends has experienced a lot of other drama over the years: location, ownership, management, funding. There seems to remain a lot of doubt surrounding the project. What makes you confident in the success, and what should we share with community members, since we're all relatively high up in some of our chains, and we can influence this for you?
Yeah, well, wait, I'm unmuted. Scott, that's a great question, and I do appreciate that, and I can try and give you as transparent of an answer as I can. So yes, there has been drama, whether it's caused by us or by other people. I'll address kind of each thing individually. The first question that I get all the time is, when are you guys starting construction? And the answer is 2.5 years ago. If you guys have ever driven by the site, our buildings are almost complete. And so we get a lot of questions all the time of, when are you guys starting? Are you actually building it or not? Of course, those people have never driven by it, or they've never looked at our drone videos that we put online or stuff like that. And that's always going to be the case. There's always going to be people that have never seen it that kind of want to be able to create more drama around that. And that's understandable. This has been a project that has been an idea of this area for decades. We got brought in as a new ownership team to take over the project, that we understood that when we did that, we inherited a certain amount of doubt, that people that have been waiting for this project to happen for so long are always going to have some sort of a skepticism because the previous times didn't work out. And we have to understand that. And when you buy a project like this or take ownership of it, you have to understand that too. So that we understand, we're trying to do our best to mitigate that. So obviously we're building, right? The project is opening up this year. And so hopefully that mitigates a lot of the skepticism of, are they going to do it? We have a staff of, I mentioned, almost 30 people. I moved out here. I have a house that we're moving into. I'm not going anywhere. And so that hopefully helps with mitigating whether or not the project will exist or not. The second thing around management and funding. So I'll start with funding, I guess. This is a completely private funded complex. There's no tax dollars. It's not public money. This is all either through our own money or private bonds or private funding and private investment. And so, we get a lot of the time, is this where my tax dollars is going towards, or, are we making sure that we're building this instead of schools type of thing? Is that the right decision? And so to mitigate that question is that it's all private. It's not being used by the general public, which made us feel more confident that we could put out a product that we were passionate about as well, but not have to look at the needs of the community from a governmental standpoint versus the needs from a social standpoint or an entertainment value standpoint. And so hopefully that helps a little bit on that. And on top of all that, we want to learn. I keep mentioning I'm not from here. A lot of our staff is from an international or national market. We want to learn what makes the community tick. How can we help? What are things that we can do from a non-intrusive way, as I mentioned before, that can provide value to this area? Working with someone like Stacy, who again is on the call, to figure out what is the economic growth plan of this area. How do we help? Is it building restaurants? Is it bringing hotels? Should we potentially look at another team? Stuff like that is important to us. So mitigating things like that is honestly just asking me the question directly, or talking to one of our staff, or driving by, or kind of figuring out the things that we have going on versus, hey, I heard a rumor that this happened or whatever. Those are always going to happen. I just want to make sure whatever I can answer personally, I'm going to try and do.
Well, thank you for that. I know the personal touch always helps. So everyone, thank you again for joining us here today. And Casey, thank you so much for your time and for your leadership. And we definitely look forward to the success of the Legends Complex.
Well, thank you guys again. Very, very honored to be here. Very much appreciate it. And anything that you guys need from me, you can either get my contact directly from my website, or I can make sure that CC and Amanda give it to you guys.
Thank you, Casey. Thank you,
Thank you,
Cece, for
Casey.
conducting our interview. We do want to just take a quick moment again to thank all of our Leadership Northern Colorado Steering Committee members. And I will screen share just quickly. We want to recognize and thank our sponsor, Elevations Credit Union. And we look forward to seeing you all at our next Leadership Moment interview on April 12th. Again, we will be releasing our special guest name soon, but we encourage you to save that second Tuesday of the month at 3:30 for our Leadership Moment experience. Casey, again, thank you for sharing your time. Thank you for all that you're doing for Northern Colorado, for Windsor, and for sports. We're excited to see you at the game. So thank you again. And
Thank you, man.
Everyone have a great day. We are at 4:01, so we wish you well, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.